Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Bhakti Vaibhav class. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuronmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauramani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Just give me one second. Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. We'll continue our discussion from Srimad Bhagvatam. We are on Canto 4 and we are continuing our discussion on the story of Puranjan. As we have heard, Narad Muni, he goes to Prachina Barhi and he starts describing a story of King Puranjan. And because Puranjan, this Prachina Barhi was himself a great king, so Narad Muni started describing the story of another great king, that is Puranjan. And through this story, actually Narad Muni wants to bring Prachina Barhi to the platform of pure devotional service, because he was thinking that the entire dynasty of this Swayambhu Manu is delivered by me. Why should this Prachina Barhi stay in materialistic life? He starts describing the story of a king who was searching for a kingdom. He had an unknown friend, Avigyata, and while searching for a good kingdom, he came to the northern side of Himalayas and he found a beautiful kingdom, a kingdom of 9 gates. This allegorical story is about the story of a living entity trying to find a good form of life, good species. He wanders in various species of life and ultimately he comes to this species of human form. And this human form is the best species for self-realization. And that's the story which is described here by Prachina Barhi, by Narad Muni. So we heard about this entire allegorical story and we completed till verse number 34, it seems. So we'll continue from verse number 35. I'll just share the screen. Just a minute. Okay. So far he has described the story of this city, how the city of 9 gates means city of this body, human body with 9 holes, and the various things in the city are the various parts of the body, the walls and the parks and towers. And as he's moving around in the city, he finds a beautiful lady who is moving in the garden, and he gets very attracted to that lady. That lady represents the contaminated material intelligence, and he gets attracted to this lady. She was protected by 5 bodyguards, and each of them had 5 wives. Each of them had a wife and hundreds of maidservants. So these are the 5 types of pranavayu which are protecting the intelligence. And then Puranjan, he starts following her. He is completely captivated by this beautiful lady. She doesn't approach him, he approaches her and he starts flattering her. Are you like Bhavani, or are you Lakshmi, or are you Saraswati? Are you looking for a husband? And let's join, because I can see that your feet are touching the ground. That means you are none of the celestial ladies. So you can marry me. And he says that I am disturbed, agitated by your loving glances. So in this way, Puranjan, he flatters, and that's how living entity is attracted by material intelligence, because that material intelligence gives the facility for enjoyment. And then Puranjani also gets attracted to him. That means the material nature and the living entity, they both are attracted to each other. But the first attempt is made by the living entity. He asks, who are you? What's your name? Which family you belong to? She says, I don't know who am I. And I don't know from where I have come. And we'll continue from verse number 35. So Puranjan asks, then what do you know? Because you are saying, I do not know my shelter, I do not know who I am, who built this city. And then he continues in the 35th verse, she says, Ete sakhaya sakyo me nara naryascha manada suptaya mai jagarti nagoyam palayam purim. Somebody read the translation, please.
My dear gentlemen, all these men and women with me are known as my friends, and the snake, who always remains awake, protects the city even during my sleeping hours. So much I know. I do not know anything beyond this.
So she is telling, I do not know who are these. I only know that they are always there. They always give me, they always protect me. Wherever I go, they are always there to protect me. That's the only thing I know. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport. Puranjan inquired from the women about these 11 men and their wives and the snake. So the women gave a brief description. She was obviously without full knowledge of her surrounding men and women and the snake. So who is the snake? That snake is the life air, the 5-hooded snake. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, the male friends are the senses, and the female female attendants are the actions of the senses. So she's saying, when I sleep, along with my associates, the snake remains awake. The pranavayu is always active. So when dreaming, the senses do not function. And in deep sleep, even the mind and intelligence do not function. But prana always remains active. So that's how the life air is always active. Till the time the life is there in the body, the soul is there in the body, the life air always protects. Generally, the ordinary people are not so much bothered about what is mind, what is intelligence, till the time they are assisting in sense gratification. Anything wrong goes with the sense gratification, then they start thinking, oh, what is happening to my mind and intelligence? I'm not able to enjoy. So Puranjan actually is not so much interested in knowing about, who are these attendants, who is this snake. He was just casually asking. He didn't have very great interest in them. He was only interested in the lady. Prabhupada writes, Even in the state of unconsciousness, when we sleep, the life force, the snake, remains intact and awake. So consequently, we dream when we sleep. When the living entity gives up this material body, the vital force still remains intact and is carried to another material body. That is called as transmigration. So the process of transmigration is the soul, along with the life air, goes to the next body. But the life air always remains. Till the time the life air is there, the body is active, the body is working. Even during our sleeping hours, we can understand by virtue of our breathing process that the snake lives by eating the air that passes within the body. So this prana vayu is always active. This air is exhibited in the form of breathing, and as long as breath is there, one can understand that the sleeping man is alive. दिष्ट्यागतो हिस्सि भद्रं ते ग्राम्यान् कामान् अभीप्ससे उद्वहिष्यामि तांस्तेहं स्वबन्धुभिररिन्दम. Translation.
O killer of the enemy, you have somehow or other come here. This is certainly great fortune for me. I wish all auspicious things for you. You have a great desire to satisfy your senses, and all my friends and I shall try our best in all respects to fulfill your desires.
दिष्ट्या आगतः, by some arrangement. Dishtya. Dishtya means nobody planned for it. Now you have come. Dishtya agatah. You have somehow or other come here. This is now Bhadramte. This is certainly a great fortune for me. I wish all auspicious things for you. Bhadramte. Gramyan kaman abhipsate. You have a great desire to enjoy the senses. Udvahishyami tam ste aham swabandhubhir. I, along with my friends, we shall try our best to fulfill your desires. O Arindama, O killer of your enemy. So the mind and the materially contaminated intelligence, along with the senses, they're always working to give material pleasure, to satisfy the living entity's desires. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, by good fortune you have attained a human body. I will supply you with enjoyment with my male and female associates. So this human body one attains by a great, great fortune. And therefore he says, she's saying, Bhadramte, all auspiciousness unto you. And Srila Prabhupada, he describes about this Udvahishyami te aham. He says, the living entity comes down in the material world for sense gratification. And the intelligence represented by women gives him proper direction by which he can satisfy the senses to their best capacity. So that's a function of material intelligence. Give all the facility for the living entities to enjoy properly. And Prabhupada quotes this Vyavasayatmika Buddhi verse. So Vyavasayatmika Buddhi actually is the intelligence which is focused on serving the Lord. And this Bahushakha, hi Ananta, Bahushakha Buddhi, it is the intelligence which is working to enjoy the senses. That Bahushakha Buddhi is this women, this material contaminated intelligence. Prabhupada writes, this Puranjan represents the living entity and the women represents the living entity's intelligence. Combined, the living entity enjoys his material senses and the intelligence supplies all paraphernalia for enjoyment. That's the function of the materially contaminated intelligence. Always working so that the living entity can be given all the material facilities. Imam tvam adithishthasva purim navamukhim vibho mayopanitan grihanana kama bhogan shatam sama. Translation.
My dear Lord, I have just arranged the city for nine gates for you, so that you can have all kinds of sense gratification. You may live here for 100 years, and everything for your sense gratification will be supplied.
So living entity is given 100 years. Whichever species of life they may be, that quantity of duration is 100 years for that living entity. Everybody is given 100 years, either an ant or Brahma. Everybody has their 100 years. In that they enjoy. Imam Tvam Adhitisthasva. Now please stay in this body. Now this you stay in this kingdom of 9 gates. Mayopanitan Grihanana. I will arrange everything. I will do all, I'll provide all the facilities for you to enjoy. Kama Bhogan. Whatever you desire, I will try to fulfill your desires. 100 years will be, you will be enjoying for 100 years. As the Upanishad says, second verse, Jiji Vishet Chat, Jiji Vishesh, Jiji Visheshatam Sata Samaha. Live for 100 years. So this 100 years is always there. Prabhupada writes, Dharmartha Kama Mokshanam Dara Samprapti Hetavaha. Wife is the cause of all kinds of success in religion, economic development, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So wife gives facility for dharma, artha, kama and moksha also. But ultimate purpose is one should be focused towards liberation. Moksha is ultimate understanding. Unfortunately, living entities, the materialistic people, they forget that. And they only focus on artha and kama. Even dharma they practice for artha and kama. But Bhagavatam begins with dharmasya hi apavargasya nartha arthaya upakalpate narthasya dharmaekantasya kamo labhaya hi smritah. Dharma should be practiced for apavarga. It should not be practiced for arthaya upakalpate, for sense gratification. Kamasya na indriya priti labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa. So all the artha should not be used for kama. It should be used for tattva jigyasa. That's the real wealth one should acquire. So that is the purpose. But a living entity gets engaged in material sense gratification. Nehyat karma dharmaya na viragaya kalpate na tirthpada sevaya jivan napi mratopi sa. Our dharma should lead to karma. Our karma should lead to vairagya. Our karma should lead to dharma. Our dharma should lead to vairagya. And vairagya should lead to bhakti. Otherwise, it is all waste. So Prabhupada writes that everybody should be trained so that they can perfect their life, live life according to the regulative principles. Okay. Kamnu tvad anyam ramaye hiyaratigyam akovidam asamparaya bhimukham ashwastan vidam pushum. Translation.
Hare Krishna. How can I expect to unite with others who are neither conversant about sex nor capable of knowing how to enjoy life while living or after death? Such foolish persons are like animals because they do not know the process of sense enjoyment in this life and after death. Hare Krishna.
So she is now saying that Kamnu tvad anyam ramaye. So now she is explaining why he is the best husband she has found. So she says, looking for a husband, now I see you. And looking for a husband, I now see you. You have suddenly arrived. I will not look any further. She says, you are the best husband. You know how to enjoy. So what it means is there are various species of life, but human facility gives the best facility for experiencing the enjoyment also. She says, Chakravarti Thakur writes, her intelligence follows dharma, since it is rajogun mixed with little sattva. So this intelligence is material contaminated dharmic intelligence. It is not adharmic intelligence. So she is still representing a dharmic intelligence. But dharma also people follow for enjoyment. So that is this type of intelligence. She criticizes persons covered by intelligence, which is predominantly in Tama and Sattva in 5 verses. So she criticizes people who are in either Tamogun or Sattvagun also, because Sattvaguni people, they don't enjoy their material bodies. They don't enjoy material senses or material sense objects. If one is born as a tree, one is completely ignorant of sexual enjoyment or atigya. They don't know how to enjoy. And if one is born as an animal, they enjoy sex life, but still they are without any skills, akovida. Although they may be born as brahmanas and vaishyas, they can enjoy sex life with skill, but they have no experience of battle or samparaya. That means they are without courage. But one is a Kshatriya, he has courage also, he can enjoy, he has all the skills, but he has no knowledge of what will happen tomorrow or next day after or after death. Therefore, he is without dharma, like an animal. So therefore, she is saying, you are the best of all the people. How can I unite with any other else? So this is because the Puranjan is Kshatriya. So this lady represents the intelligence of a Kshatriya. Because previously we heard that she was wearing a yellow sari. Yellow is a color of Rajogun. And this Puranjan Jiva is very, very suitable to accept this type of intelligence because he also has Kshatriya inclinations. So this Prachinabari is a Kshatriya, and Narad Muni wants to convince him. So he is giving all these wonderful examples related to Kshatriya. And therefore, they are both attracted to one another. Because if somebody is a Kshatriya, they cannot accept Brahminical instructions. We have heard in the Dhruv Maharaj's story when Narad Muni met him in the forest and told him, why are you so disturbed? You are a child. Go back to palace. When you grow up, then you go and do tapasya. Children, they don't, get insulted. And if you have such a discrimination of good and bad, you should know that soul is eternal. Why you should be disturbed? So Dhruva says, look, Brahmana, O Narad Muni, all your instructions are wonderful, but they are meant for Brahmanas. I am a Kshatriya. I cannot forget the insult. I cannot accept your words. So therefore he said, you give me the instructions which I can follow. Okay. So Prabhupada writes, there are 84 lakh species of life. In lower grades of life, there is no system of sexual intercourse. Upper grades, there is sex life, but they do not know how to enjoy. Human body, there is full knowledge of how to enjoy. Indeed, there are many so-called philosophers who give directions on how to enjoy sex life. Kama Shastra. And human life also, there is Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanprastha, Sannyas. Sorry. Sorry. So he says, there is no sex life except in Grihastha life. Other ashramas, it is not allowed. In other words, a human being is very much materially inclined. Indeed, all living entities are materially inclined. They prefer grihastha life because there is concession for sex life. And the karmis think that other statuses of life are worse than animal. For animals who have sex, but other statuses of life, they give up sex. So therefore, she is saying that you are the best person because you know how to enjoy. Other species, they don't know. And even other ashramas, they don't do it. She continues. She says that in the next verse, actually, you may not be interested in household life, but let me tell you the glories of household life. Now, she is also attracted to Puranjan, and she glorifies household life, which bestows three goals. Dharmo yatrartha kamo cha prajanando amritam yashah loka vishoka viraja yanna kevalino viduhu. Translation. Somebody is reading translation.
The women continue, in this material world, a householder's life brings all kinds of happiness in religion, economic development, sense gratification, and the begetting of children, sons and grandsons. After that, one may desire liberation as well as material reputation. The householder can appreciate the result of sacrifices which enable him to gain promotion to superior planetary systems. All this material happiness is practically unknown to the transcendentalists. They cannot
Oh,
even imagine such happiness.
okay. So now she's saying householder's life brings so many wonderful qualities. He says householder life brings dharma, artha, kama. Brings religion, happiness of dharma, artha, and kama, sense gratification and economic development. And then praja ananda, the happiness of begetting children, amritam yashaha. And this the householders, they do sacrifices also, and they gain material reputation also. Loka vishoka viraja, and after that one may go viraja beyond the material world also. They may get liberation also, or they may be promoted to the higher planetary systems also. So these are the wonderful benefits of householders. Yanna kevalino vidu. These transcendentalists who are kevalina, they do not know all these things. They do not know the happiness of artha, kama, dharma, material happiness. They don't know. They don't know happiness of sons and grandsons. Prabhupada writes, in Vedic knowledge, Vedic instructions, there is a pravritti marga and nivritti marga. Pravritti means you enjoy sex life, you enjoy material pleasures, and then you get liberated, detached. Nivritti means give up altogether. So she is telling that household life is better, pravritti marg is better, and safe also. Because the sannyasis, they don't know whether they will achieve liberation or not. As they say, a bird in hand is better than two in bush. So she is saying all these transcendentalists, they are working hard, giving up all enjoyment. They don't even know that they will achieve that liberation. At least materialists, they enjoy and then they get liberation also. So that is the best thing. This is how material intelligence tries to capture a soul into material pleasure. अरे किसने देखा है? Anyways, there is so much risk. So you follow this worldly rules and regulations, enjoy material life, and then gradually you get detached. So what is the problem? Why are you so disturbed? No? So that's how she is convincing. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur writes, She glorifies household life, which bestows three goals. Prajananda, the bliss arising from union to produce children, or bliss of raising children. Lokaha means the places one attain by doing sacrifice. And she does not approve of the fourth goal because it is very difficult to obtain. So she says, why you should bother about liberation? You should not become sannyasi. Enter household life. It is so very wonderful. So this indicates that the sattvic intelligence is criticized here. Sattvic intelligence makes one more inclined towards liberation. Material intelligence, Rajasic intelligence is not so much interested in liberation. It is interested in enjoyment, of course in dharmic way. So Srila Prabhupada writes about that. Pravritti marga, nivritti marga. This woman in this verse is advocating pravritti marga and discouraging nivritti marga. She clearly says that the transcendentalists cannot imagine the happiness of pravritti marga. They don't know what is pravritti, what is the happiness. There is so much happiness in this pravritti marg, and they are working for some, the pleasure of the other worlds. Who knows whether it exists or not, whether they'll achieve it or not. So don't worry about all that. So that's how she is trying to convince this Puranjan. And then Prabhupada writes all the wonderful things about Pravritti Marga, how it binds one to birth, old age, disease and death, and so many distresses one goes through. But still, a living entity who is materially intelligent, material contaminated intelligence, never ever tries to come out of this cycle of birth and death. He thinks the householder life is such a wonderful life. The pleasure of material life is so very great. Yan maithunadi grihamedhi sukhami tucham kanduyanena karayoriva dukkha dukkam. Unfortunately, they don't understand that the pleasure of household life is very minimal. A grahastha enjoys sex life in this life as well as in the next, but a grahamedi does not know what the next life is because he is simply interested in sex in this life. On the whole, when one is too much inclined towards sex life, he does not care for transcendental spiritual life. She continues. She says, someone may say that there is only birth, old age, disease, and death. There is birth, old age, disease, and death also in this body. You are saying that you will enjoy. Puranjan may ask her that there is also birth, old age, disease, and death in this body. So she says, forget all that. We will enjoy, and you don't have to worry about all these things. She says, De Pitri Devarshi Martyanam Bhutanam Atmanashaha Shemyam Vadanti Sharanam Bhavesmin Yad Grihashramaha. Translation.
The woman continued, according to the authorities, the householder life is pleasing not only to oneself but to all the forefathers, demigods, great sages, saintly persons, and everyone else. A householder life is thus beneficial.
Okay. So householder life is not only pleasing for oneself, but Pitri, Devarshi, Martyanam, Bhutanam, Atmana, everybody is pleased by that. Because there are so many debts. And when we enter household life, we get a chance to liquidate all the debts. She is not understanding that the path of nivritti, especially the path of devotional service, is the most wonderful path. So she is saying, please play safe. Don't choose the path of renunciation or celibacy. That's the Rajasi intelligence, materially contaminated, which pushes us to engage in sense gratification and doesn't help us to go to spiritual life. Prabhupada writes how if somebody does not repay the debt to the forefathers and the sages and the rishis, saintly people, they have to atone for that. They have to suffer for that. Prabhupada writes, if one does not repay them, he is further entangled in the process of birth and death. The Grihamadhi who is overly addicted to material things do not know that if he simply takes shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, he is freed from all obligations. Devarshi bhutapta nrinam pitrinam nakinkaro nayam rinicha rajan sarvatmanaya sharanam sharanyam gato mukundam pariritya kartum. So therefore, one should not become a Grihamedhi, only interested in enjoyment. One should become Krishna conscious, which makes one focused on at the lotus feet of the Lord, service to the lotus feet. Otherwise, one becomes Griha Vrata, as Prabhupada quotes Prahlad Maharaj. Matirna Krishne Paratasvato va mitho vipadyeta Griha Vratanam. They have taken a Vrata of Griha. What is Vrata of Griha? Enjoyment. Enjoy to the best. That is the Vrata of a householder. Grihimedi, material householder. Enjoy life. One who takes sex life to be the supreme finds action in Krishna consciousness confusing. That's why people, they say, why you are focusing on these four regulative principles? They are not very good. They don't help us enjoy this life. Okay, she continues. Kanama vira vikyatam vadanyam priyadarshanam na vrinita priyam praptam madrishi twadrisham patim.
Oh, my dear hero, who in this world will not accept a husband like you? You are so famous, so magnanimous, so beautiful, and so easily gotten.
Ka nama veer vikyatam. She says, oh my dear hero, you are so famous. Vikhyata. You are Vadanya. You are magnanimous. You are Priyadarshana. You are so very wonderful and beautiful, handsome. And, sorry. Just a minute. Madrishi twadrisham pati. Who will not accept you? You are having all the wonderful qualities. So therefore, who will not accept you as husband? Prabhupada writes, every husband is certainly a great hero to his wife. In other words, if a woman loves a man, that man appears very beautiful and magnanimous. Unless one becomes beautiful in the eyes of another, one cannot dedicate his whole life to another. Husband is considered magnanimous because he gives so many children to the wife as she likes. Every woman is fond of children. Therefore, any husband who can please his wife by sex and give her children is considered very magnanimous. So therefore, she is saying, oh, you are such a magnanimous. Vadanya, Priyadarshana, Vikhyata. Prabhupada makes a very strong statement here. which has created controversies. He says, in this regard, the word Vikhyatam is very significant. A man is always famous for his aggression towards a beautiful women, and such aggression is sometimes considered rape. Although rape is not legally allowed, it is a fact that a woman likes a man who is very expert at rape. So this is a very strong statement Prabhupada has made here. And many times people, when they read such statements, they start accusing. So how to understand such statements of Prabhupada? So Jayadvaita Maharaj, who is editor of Srila Prabhupada's books, he tells, every word carries a connotation. Previously, the words had different connotation. So previous times, rape was used for a person, for a man, meant for a man who is very wonderful, powerful, chivalrous, and ready to get anything by force. So that man was given such type of address. So that's how we should understand that the words, they carry a connotation. Prabhupada writes, Prabhupada would tell the story that one time one of his relatives, her son was getting married, her daughter was getting married, and they were about to get married, and they were looking for a suitable groom. And one boy came, and he was very learned person, very well educated. So the grandmother of the family, of the girl's side, she asked, do you know how to ride a bicycle? So he said, no, I never learned. So after everything was done, the boy's family went back, and the girl's family, everybody was so very happy that the boy is so very qualified, educated, well-mannered. They took the opinion of the grandmother, and she said, he is not a suitable match. He has no drive, because he doesn't know even how to ride a bicycle. That means he will not achieve anything. He is not an ambitious person. So that's how, if a person is a go-getter, ready to do anything, that is glorified. Otherwise, he is not liked by women. So that is why Prabhupada writes such statements. So one should be very, very careful to understand such statements and present this in a proper context. Okay, now she continues. Kasyamanaste bhuvi bhogi bhogayo striya na sajjed bhujayor mahabhuja yonath vargadhimalam grinodhata smitavaloke charatyapohitam. Translation.
O mighty armed, who in this world will not be attracted by your arms, which are just like the bodies of serpents. Actually, you relieve the distress of husbandless women like us by your attractive smile and your aggressive mercy. We think that you are traveling on the surface of the earth just to benefit us.
Kasya manaste, who in this world, na sajjed bhujayo mahabhuja, who in this world will not be attracted by your arms? They are very long. They are like bhogi bhogayo. They are like the bodies of serpents. That means very strong, very long. Actually, anatha vargadhim alam grinodhata. You relieve the distress of husbandless women. That means those who are not married. Anatha vargadhim. You are attractive to all young women. And you are very famous for your aggressive mercy. So she is telling that you give shelter to me. That means unless the living entity gives shelter to the intelligence, it can't manifest all its features. Material intelligence, when comes in touch with a living entity, that material intelligence can display all the features. If soul is not there, then intelligence can't function. In itself, intelligence is a dead matter. But when the intelligence is accepted by a living entity, then all the features are manifested. For example, if there is a knife, in itself it is a dead matter, can't do anything. But when the knife comes in the hand of a surgeon or a murderer, it can do so many things. Arrow in itself is inanimate, can't do anything, it will just lie down. But if the arrow is in the hand of a great powerful archer, it can show its effects. So therefore, she's saying, without you, we can't do anything. You wander about to remove the inner suffering of women like me who are without shelter. That means without the jiva's consciousness, the intelligence and other factors, they can't do anything. You know, they are the jiva's consciousness is a protector of intelligence and all the other factors. So that's how Narad Muni ends this description. Prabhupada writes, when a husbandless woman is attacked by an aggressive man, she takes his action to be the mercy. A woman is generally very much attracted by a man's long hands. So Prabhupada is basically explaining these words. Okay. So after this, Narad Muni, he continues how the Puranjan and Puranjani, they got married, they entered household life. That means the living entity accepted material intelligence now. After this, what happens? अभी तो शादी हो गई, उसके बाद क्या होता है? उसके बाद तो असली शुरू होता है मैच. The main thing starts after that. Narada uvacha iti tau dampati tatra samudya samayan smitha tam pravishya purim rajan mumudate shatam samah.
The great sage Narada continued, my dear king, those two, the man and the woman, supporting one another through mutual understanding, entered that city and enjoyed life for 100 years.
Iti tau dampati, those two, dampati, the man and women, supporting samudya samayan mithaha, supporting one another through mutual understanding, they entered the city. So the Puranjana, the living entity, accepts the material intelligence and then gets a gross body. That's how the living entity enters in this material world. Gets the subtle body, and depending on that subtle body, gets a gross body. Because now the subtle body is the body which is suited for human species. He gets the human body of 9 gates. And now, this body, the living entity is now in this material body. So what the living entity does in the awakened state, in the sleeping state, that will be described very, very wonderfully. Narad Muni, every description he connects to some activity of the human body. Okay. Prabhupada writes, 100 years is significant in this connection because every living being is given a concession to live for 100 years. Even Brahma lives for 100 years. So now, there are 100 years which is described in the previous verse, that is the awakened state of a living entity. So what the living entity does in the sleeping state, That is described in the next verse. Upagiyamano lalitam tatra tatra cha gayakai kridan parivrata sribhi radinim avishachuchau. Translation.
Hare Krishna. Many professional singers used to sing about the glories of King Puranjan and his glorious activities. When it was too hot in the summer, he used to enter a reservoir of water. He would surround himself with many women and enjoy their company. Hare Krishna.
So, what is happening in the sleeping state? So, playing with women, it is the dream state. Now there is a description of the dream state of a jiva. So, the senses now they are not functioning. When the person is sleeping, living entity is sleeping, the gross senses they don't function. So, the action continues with what? We heard that Puranjani, she came with the male attendants and the female attendants also. The female attendants, who are these female attendants? Hundreds of desires. So now the male senses are sleeping. So in the are not there. So the living entity, what it does when he goes to sleep, enjoys with the desires of the mind. The senses are inactive. So the desires are active. The mind is still working. That is described here. Very subtle, very intricate, technical analogy Narad Muni is creating here. Prabhupada writes. First, we'll see Chakravarti Thakur. Their waking state was summarized by saying that they enjoyed for 100 years. Now, the sleeping state is described. Playing with women describes the dream state because in the dream state, the senses do not function. The male attendants, they don't function. The female attendants, they are there. So he enjoys with them also. And then, after one goes to sleep, first he has dreams where the mind is active. After some time, the mind also becomes inactive when the person goes in deep sleep. And that deep sleep is described by entering the river. He entered the river. What is that river? The space in the heart where the jiva resides during deep sleep. Mind is not active. Intelligence is not active. But the consciousness is still active. That is the state, that is the space within the heart. So Prabhupada writes about that also in the purport. There are various stages of life. Jagrata, Sushupti, Jagrata, Swapna, Sushupti. And the fourth stage is Turiya. Turiya is a stage of transcendence. So in the previous verse, the life of awakening was described. That is, the man and women were married and enjoyed for 100 years. Now the dream state is described. Puranjan used to live with a wife for sense enjoyment, and at night, this very sense enjoyment was appreciated in many different ways. And then Prabhupada writes how when the man is fatigued, he goes to sleep and enjoys. So that's how a rich man is also, when he's fatigued, he goes to a garden and enjoys with his friends and female friends, enters the water. Okay. Next. Then after describing the deep state, the sleep state and the deep sleep state, in 45th verse, he again describes the waking up state. Saptopari krita dvara purastasya tu dve adha prithak vishaya gatyartham tasyam yah kaschaneshwarah.
Of the 9 gates of that city, 7 were on the surface, 2 were subterranean. A total of 9 doors were constructed, and these led to different places. All the gates were used by the city's governor.
So 7 were on the surface and 2 subterranean, 2 below. So 7 gates on the surface are 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. And 2 subterranean gates are rectum and genitals. So all these gates were used by city's governor, that is Puranjan. The Puranjan uses all these gates to enjoy. Prabhupada writes there are many cities now also, in the previous India also, big gates were there. Kashmiri gate, Lahori gate, Delhi gate. So Prabhupada gives some present context, current context to this. Panchadwarastu paurastya dakshinaika tathottara paschime dve amushante namani nripavarnaye. Translation.
My dear king, of the 9 doors, 5 led towards the eastern side, 1 led towards the northern side, 1 led towards the southern side, and 2 led towards the western side. I shall try to give the names of these different doors.
So now he is describing the different gates. So for going to various senses, the various gates are used. Prabhupada writes, since looking forward means seeing the sun, these are described as eastern gates, for the sun rises in the east. The gate on the northern side and the gate on the southern side represents the 2 ears, and the 2 gates facing the western side represents the rectum and genitals. खद्योताविर्मुखी च प्राग्द्वारावेकत्र निर्मिते बिभ्राजितं जनपदं याति ताभ्यां द्विमत्सखः. Others can read. Everybody should read. Raghunandan Ram Prabhu, can you read?
Visible नहीं है पूजी. 2 gates named Khayodata and Avirmukhi were situated facing the eastern side, but they were constructed in one place. Through those 2 gates, the king used to go to the city of Vibrajita, accompanied by a friend whose name was Dayaman.
Dyuman. Okay, I hope everybody who is logging in, they are there. Raghunandan Ram Prabhu, are you there? Okay, it seems login कर लेते हैं. So now he is describing the various gates. Khadyota and Avirmukhi, these are the 2 gates on the eastern side. We'll see Chakravarti Thakur's commentary first. Lefter eye is weaker like a firefly. The right eye is stronger. Khadyota and Avirmukhi. The left eye, it indicates that it is less powerful in its ability to see. That's why it is compared with Khadyota, glowworm, and Avirmukhi, torchlight. It is a powerful one. Although both are constructed in one place, one is stronger than the other in power to see. So a living entity uses these 2 gates to see things properly. But one cannot see unless accompanied by a friend whose name is Dyuman. Who is this friend who gives us the ability to see? That is the sun. This sun is the friend of the eye. And through this gate, this king would go to a city of Vibhrajitam, What is this Vibhrajita Janpada? That is all the forms which we are seeing by our eyes. That is the city where the king would go through this gate. When we see, we use our eyes. With the help of the sun, we can see all the sense objects. So that is a place where the king would go through these two gates, Khadyota and Avirmukhi. Then there are two other gates, Nalini Nalini cha Prag Dwara Vekatra Nirmite Avadhut Sakhastabhyam Vishayam Yati Saurabham. Yes, somebody else can read.
Similarly, in the east, there were two sets of gates named Nalini and Nalini, and these were also constructed in one place. Through these gates, the king, accompanied by a friend named Abhaduta, used to go to the city of Saurava.
So this Nalini and Nalini are the two nostrils, and there is a friend who helps us to smell, that is called as Avadhut friend. What is that Avadhut friend which helps us to smell? That is the air, because the air carries the fragrance. And why it is called Avadhut friend? Anyone can guess? Why? What is the characteristic of an Avadhut?
Avadhuta means it has no destination. He wanders like Mendicant or everywhere, wherever he goes, as per his
हाँ, कहीं पे भी जाते हैं वो. There is no fixed destination. So that's air. Air can go anywhere, like Avadhuta. So that's why his name is Avadhuta. We can see the amazing intelligence of Narad Muni. He is creating such a wonderful analogy with all the precision. Every word has a particular meaning and reasoning. And he goes to the city of Saurabh, that is aroma. Because of the nostrils, one can smell various things, fragrance. Okay. Now, the fifth gate. Mukhya nama purastadva tayapan bahudano vishayo yati purarad rasagya vipananvitaha. Translation.
The fifth gate, situated on the eastern side, was named Mukhya, or the chief. Through this gate, accompanied by his friends named Rasadnya and Vipanna, he used to visit two places named Bahu, Dana, and Apana.
Okay. So the most important gate is the mouth. That is on the eastern side. Fifth gate. That is Mukhya. Mukhya क्यों है? Chief gate है, because that is the most important gate. Mukhya. And this gate has two functions, speaking and tasting. So the speaking and tasting happens when the friends, they help. So the speaking helps, speaking one does. Who is the friend of this? Just a minute. Okay. Our eating is done with the friend Rasagya, the tongue, which can taste so many different types of food. The tongue is also used for speaking, and it can speak of either material sense enjoyment or Vedic knowledge. Of course, here material sense enjoyment is stressed. Therefore, the word Rasagya is used. Bahudan and Apan. So, Bahudana and Apana means the various things to enjoy and various things to speak, all the worldly talk. So these are the two functions of the tongue or the mouth. Okay, so then there are two gates remaining on the western side. Two more gates remaining on the northern side and the southern side. Pitrihu Nripapuriyadvar Dakshinena Puranjanaha Rashtram Dakshina Panchalam Yati Shrutadharanvitaha. Translation.
The southern gate of the city was known as Pitru, and through that gate King Puranjana used to visit the city named Dakshina Panchala, accompanied by his friend Shrutadhara.
So the southern gate is called Pitrihu because the southern gate or the right ear is used for all the karma kandiya ceremonies. One hears all the mantras of karma kanda through this ear. And Pitrihu means all the ancestors are benefited by hearing mantras, Prabhupada writes. As long as one is attached to the enjoyment of sense pleasure, material resources, he hears from the right ear and uses the five senses to elevate himself to Pitriloka, that is Pitrihu. And therefore the right ear is described as Pitrihu gate. Okay, the next. The northern gate. Northern gate is called as Devahu. Devahu nama Puryadva Uttarena Puranjanaha Rashtram Uttara Panchalam Vyati Shrutadharanvitaha. Translation.
Northern side was the gate named Devahu. Devahu, through the gates, King Puranjana used to go with his friend Sruhardhara to the place known as Uttara Panchal.
So the left ear is called as Devahu. So the left ear is used for hearing all the spiritual subject matters. And with this, one would go to the place called as Uttar Panchal. So Prabhupada writes, one who is interested in being happy on this planet as well as after death generally wants to be elevated to Pitriloka. Such a person can use the right ear for hearing Vedic instructions. However, one who is interested in going to Tapaloka, Brahmaloka, Vaikuntha or Krishnaloka, they take initiation from spiritual master. They hear from the left ear. Prabhupada writes, by the right ear, which is stronger, one first hears Karma Kand. By the left ear, one hears Jnana Kand. So that's how these two gates are described. Now, the two remaining gates. Asuri nama paschadva tayayati puranjanaha gramakam nama vishayam durmadena samanvitaha. Translation.
On the western side was a gate named Asuri. Through that gate, King Puranjan used to go to the city of Gramaka, accompanied by his friend Durmada.
So this Asuri gate, that is the gate of genitals. It goes to a city of Gramaka. It creates family life. And the friend is Durmada. Chakravarti Thakur writes.
Within the genitals.
Gramaka means the pleasure of materialistic people, the sex life, using the sense organ Durmada, infatuated. So Prabhupada in the purport, he focuses on this materialistic household life, which is focused on sense gratification. Material sense gratification is called Gramya, and therefore this city is called as Gramaka. And when going to Gramaka, Puranjan accompanied his friend Durmada. Why Durmada? Word Durmadena may be analyzed in this way. Dura means dushta or sinful. Mada means madness. Every living entity who is in contact with material nature is called mad. As Rishabdev also says, What is that? It says pramatta. Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yadindriya pritaye aprinoti. People are certainly mad. Nunam, certainly, pramatta, prakrishta rupena matta. Why? They are doing vikarma. They are doing sense gratification, sinful activities for what? Indriya pritaya aprinoti, because they want to enjoy sense gratification. पिशाची पाइले ये न मति छन्न होय मायाग्रस्त जीवेर होय सेई भाव उदय. So पिशाची पाइले ये न मति छन्न होय. When the mind is completely covered, then one engages in all the sinful activities. And this person behaves as if he's a haunted person. Practically insane. Haunted person behaves like a madman. So a person who is intoxicated or haunted by material desires, he also behaves like a madman. He does all the wrong things, foolish things, doesn't know what is good for him. Okay. And then Prabhupada writes, this Dwara is on the Paschim Dwara. Why Paschim Dwara? Because generally the western side is famous for material enjoyment. Mahaprabhu describes Paschimera Loka Sab Moodha Anachar. The more one goes to the western side, the more he will find people disinterested in materialistic, in spiritual life. Okay, there is another gate. Niritti nama paschadva stayayati puranjanaha vaishasam nama vishayam lubdhakena samanvitaha.
Another gate on the western side was known as Niratti. Puranjana used to go through this gate to the place known as Vaishasha, accompanied by his friend Lubdhaka.
So this gate is called as Niritti. This is rectum. And he goes along with his friend Lubdhak. So this gate is specially, Prabhupada writes, this gate is specially meant for death. When ordinary living entity abandons his present body, he passes through rectum. It is therefore painful. So therefore, third canto also it is described, when a living entity who is sinful leaves the body, they leave through the lower gates. And that therefore, sometimes people, they pass stool and urine as they leave the body. That means they have gone to the lower species, lower destinations. And why Lubdhaka? Who is this friend Lubdhak? Greed. Lubdhak is the greed. That means because of the greed, we eat unnecessarily and then we go through the pain at the time of evacuation. You know, many times, or at least sometimes, somebody has experienced, all of us have experienced, when we eat too much, then we suffer. Then we think, why, kyun khaya? Okay. Then this friend, this city of 9 gates also has 2 more inhabitants who are blind. Who are these blind inhabitants? Andhavamisham Pauranam Nirvak Peshaskrita Ubhau Akshanvatam Adhipati Tabhyam Yati Karoti Cha. Translation.
Of the many inhabitants of the city, there are 2 persons named Nirvak and Peshakrut. Although King Puranjana was the ruler of the citizens who possessed eyes, he unfortunately used to associate with these blind men. Accompanied by them, he used to go here and there and perform various activities.
Okay. So basically, in all the descriptions we heard so far, so what is the gate? What is the city? And who is this friend? So the gate, okay, all of you can tell me, what is this gate? So many gates we heard. So what are these gates corresponding to in our body?
The Karmendriya.
Yeah.
Okay, all the gross organs. And who is this? What is this city where the Puranjan would go?
Human body.
नहीं नहीं, ह्यूमन बॉडी तो है ही, ह्यूमन बॉडी के गेट्स में से किधर जाएगा?
नरक.
अरे बाबा, see all the this Puranjan goes to the different cities through these different gates. That's what we are hearing. So what are these different cities corresponding to? The
Sense
eyes.
objects.
The sense objects. The eyes, they go to a city of, क्या था उसका नाम city का? The Puranjan goes to the city, the gate of eyes, Khadyota Avirmukhi. उसका नाम
Vibrajitam.
क्या था? विभ्राजिता. हाँ, विभ्राजिता, effulgent one. वो क्या है? That is sense object. वैसे ही for years the city was Saurabha. The city of the sense object was fragrance. And then sorry, not ears, nostrils, Saurabha. For years the city was Uttar Panchal. Whatever we hear, we hear either material things or spiritual things. So Devahu and Pitrihu, the right ear, he would go to a city of Dakshin Panchal, and through left ear he would go to a city of Uttar Panchal. Uttar Panchal represents all the spiritual sound vibrations. Dakshin Panchal represents all the material sound vibrations. So that's what we are
Prabhuji,
hearing.
how do we understand this right and left? Is it that
I'm also
right
not
ear
sure
we
about.
hear?
I asked few people, I could not get some reasonable answers, but that is what is described. Generally, the left ear and right ear, that they are used for different purposes. So for all the karma kandiya purposes, the right ear, one hears the mantras in right ear, and for spiritual vibrations, they are heard through left ear. That is what is described in the commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Apart from that, I also have no other information about that. Just like in that Khadyota Avirmukhi, the right eye is, the left eye is, right eye is stronger than the left eye. So these are some descriptions given in Bhagavatam. I'm not sure about the technical details about that. How is it? Okay. So he goes to this city. In this city of 9 gates, there are 2 blind people. Andhav अमीशाम पौराणाम. ये सिटी में 2 अंधे लोग हैं. कौन हैं? उनका नाम है निर्वाक and पेशस्कृत. Although this king had eyes, अक्षण्वताम फलमिदम. अक्षण्वताम मतलब जिनकी आंखें हैं. So the Puranjan, he has eyes, but tabhyam yati karoti, he would associate with this blind people also. Accompanied by them, he would go here and there. What are these blind people? Nirvak and Peshaskrit. These are our hands and our legs. Nirvak and Peshaskrit. They are blind because they don't have openings. They can't see anything. Neither hands can see, neither legs can see. But we go to various places using our legs. We do various things using our hands. They have no eyes. Prabhupada writes, the 2 legs do not speak, therefore, and they are blind. They are dumb, they are blind. If a person simply trusts his legs to take him walking, he is likely to fall in the hole or bump into something. Of the senses that are working, the hands and legs are very important, but they have no eyes. That means they have no holes. Okay. Sayarhiyantah puragato vishushina samanvitaha moham prasadam harsham va yati jayatmajodbhavam.
Sometimes he used to go to his private home with one of his chief servants, a mine, who was named Visuchina. At that time, illusion, satisfaction, and happiness used to be produced from his wife and children.
So this is also another very wonderful analogy he's making. So he had many servants. अभी जो अपनी पत्नी के servants हैं वो पति के ही servants हो गए ना. So that Puranjani came with 10 servants and hundreds of maid servants, attendants. So 10 servants, and the chief of them is the mind, the 10 senses and the mind. Mind is the chief. As Krishna gives this example of the palm, that Shrotram Chakshu Sparshanam cha Rasanam Ghranam evacha Adhishthaya Manaschayam. The palm is like that mind, and all the senses, they are like the fingers. The mind controls the other servants. Okay, so he used to go to his private home with his servants. With his chief servant, the mind? What does that mean?
Vision of the heart.
The private home is the antahpur. That is the heart. Vishuchi, the mind, means wandering everywhere. And what are these servants? When the mind, living entity, goes with the mind to his inner self, to the heart, क्या क्या आता है? मन क्या क्या देता है? Illusion, satisfaction, and happiness. These are the three things. They are produced from his wife and children. The mind produces all this. Illusion arises from tamogun.
Ignorance.
Satisfaction arises from sattva, and the joy arises from rajas. When the mind is in tamogun, it creates illusion. It gives birth to illusion. When the living entity comes in touch with the mind which is in tamogun, illusion. In rajogun, material enjoyment. In sattvagun, there is satisfaction. So wife was intelligence and the children were objects of intelligence. And he would produce some children through his wife also. So what is the function of the intelligence? Generalizing, particularizing, ascertaining, and realizing. So these are the functions of the mind and intelligence. So when the living entity comes in touch with all these things, with the mind, with the intelligence, so following things are produced. Prabhupada writes, Hridayam Atma Pratishtaha, the self is situated within the heart. And when the soul is covered by tamogun, rajogun, sattvagun, different qualities, they give rise to different feelings. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam, rajaso lobha evacha, pramad moho tamaso bhavato ajnanam evacha. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sattvam sukhe sanjayati, rajah karmani bharata, jnanam avritya tu tama, pramade sanjayatyuta. So all these things are described here. When the living entity is encircled by wife, children, and home, he acts on the mental plane. Sometimes he is happy, sometimes satisfied, sometimes not satisfied, sometimes bewildered. So these are all the emotions arising from the mind, which is in different modes. Okay, then Prabhupada writes, people, when they are not in their original constitutional pure condition, they get affected by material mind and intelligence. And they engage in all the material activities. They don't understand the real purpose is to serve Krishna, the real business. And if they're not in Krishna consciousness, they'll get illusion for sure. One's so-called feelings of happiness and satisfaction resulting from material things are also illusion. Dvaite bhadra bhadra gyan sakali saman Ei bhala, ei manda, sab mano dharma. What is happiness? What is illusion? What is distress? What is auspicious? What is inauspicious? It is all arising from the mind. Mano dharma. Mind creates all these feelings of happiness, distress. ये मेरा है, ये मेरा नहीं है, ये अच्छा है, ये बुरा है. Factually, neither society, friendship, love, or anything else can save them from the onslaught of external energy. They are all illusory happiness. Only shelter of Krishna can save. Okay. Now, Puranjan, he is engaged in so many activities. Evam karmasu sanshakta kamatma vanchito buddha Mahishi yad yad iheta tat tat evanvavartata. Now this great king Puranjan, he has completely become a pet dog in the hands of his wife. तो जो बोल रही है सब करता है वो. Translation please.
Being thus entangled in different types of mental concoction and engaged in fruitive activities, King Puranjana came completely under the control of material intelligence and was thus cheated. Indeed, he used to fulfill all the desires of his wife, the queen.
So that's the material intelligence. He's completely, a living entity completely follows the material intelligence. Whatever the intelligence says, he does. Prabhupada writes. When a living entity is such bewildered that he is in such bewilderment that he is under the control of his wife, he has to satisfy the intelligence of his so-called wife and exactly acts according to her dictates. Therefore, the Shastras advise that for material convenience, one should keep his wife always satisfied by giving her ornaments and by following her instructions. In this way, there will be no trouble in family life. This is a secret of a trouble-free family life. Follow the instructions of the wife without any argument. Therefore, for one's own social benefit, one is advised to keep his wife satisfied. In this way, when one becomes the servant of his wife, he must act according to the desires of his wife. And thus, what happens? He becomes more and more entangled. In Bengal, it is said that if one becomes the obedient servant of his wife, he loses all reputation. However, the difficulty is that unless one becomes the most obedient servant of his wife, the family life becomes disturbed. So that's how the living entity, Puranjan, he is following the instructions of his wife royally, very loyally. Whatever she would say, he would do it. Kvachit Pat now, abhi ye 57 to 61 describes how he is controlled by his wife. He is doing everything, whatever the wife is doing. He is practically imitating the activities of his wife. That means a living entity just imitates the activities of the intelligence. Whatever intelligence says, the living entity also does. These verses explain the conditioning imposed on the jiva. How the jiva does everything the intelligence tells. Material intelligence. Translation.
When the queen drank liquor, King Puranjana also engaged in drinking. The queen dined, he used to dine with her, and when she achieved, King Puranjana used to achieve along with her. The queen sang, he also sang. Similarly, when the queen cried, he also cried. When the queen laughed, he also laughed. When the queen talked loosely, he also talked loosely. The queen walked, the king walked behind her. The queen would stand still, the king would also stand still. When the queen would lie down in bed, he would also follow and lie down with her. The queen sat, he would also sit, and he would also follow lie down with her. When the queen sat, he would also sit, and when the queen heard something, he would follow her to hear same thing. The queen saw something, the king would also look at it. And when the queen smelled something, the king would follow her to smell the same thing. The king touched something, the king would also touch it. When the dear queen was lamenting, the poor king also had to follow her in a lamentation. In the same way, when the queen felt enjoyment, he also enjoyed. And when the queen was satisfied, king also felt satisfaction.
That means whatever our intelligence does, we do. Prabhupada writes. The mind is a place where the self is situated and the mind is conducted by intelligence. Living entity situated within the heart follows the intelligence. And therefore, the intelligence is the queen, and the soul, which is under the mental control, follows the intelligence. So that's how he just imitates. Ultimately, what we have to do is we have to purify our mind and intelligence. Savai manah Krishna padaravindayo vachamsi vaikuntha gunanuvarnane karo harer mandir marjanadashu shrutim chakarach satkathodaya. Prabhupada quotes all these verses. How materialistic person, they are always under the control of the mind and intelligence. A devotee should bring his mind and intelligence under the control of Krishna. How he was controlled, all these things are described. So a living entity thinks that he is a controller, but actually he is not controller. So here is a king who is completely controlled. So that's how the living entity thinks that he is controller, but he is actually controlled. Prakrite kriyamanani gunaih karmani sarvashah ahankar vimudhatma karta aham iti manyate. He thinks that he is a controller. He is not controller. He is not the doer. Okay. In this way, this king was cheated by his wife. Vipralabdho mahishyevam sarva prakriti vanchitaha nichhannu karotyagya klaibyat kridam rigo yatha.
In this way, King Puranjan was captivated by his nice wife and was thus cheated. Indeed, he became cheated in his whole existence in the material world. Even against that poor, foolish king's desire, he remained under the control of his wife, just like a pet animal that dances according to the order of its master.
Even against his own desire, he remained under the control of his wife. Sometimes we know this is not to be done. Anichannapi varshneya balad ivan yojitaha. Why a person engages in sinful activity, O Krishna, although he doesn't want to do it? Athakena prayuktoyam papam charati. So that's the condition of this Puranjan. Even though he doesn't want to do something, he has to do it because he is completely controlled by his material intelligence. And in this way, he is cheated. Vipralabdha. Vipralabdha means cheated. He is cheated of his highest advantage, highest purpose of life. Prabhupada writes, Mahat sevam dwaram ahur vimukte tumo dwaram yoshitam sangi sangam. When we associate with great personalities, the devotees of the Lord, the doors of liberation are opened. When one associates with opposite gender or materialistic people, the doors of hell are opened. Tamo dwaram yoshitam sangi sangam. So therefore, one must give up the association of women or opposite gender. Because this living entity, this king, is just following the instructions and the actions of his wife. He is cheated of his real welfare. He's completely captivated. Prabhupada writes, how one becomes captivated by the association of one's dear wife is explained in this chapter by Narad Muni. Attraction of one's wife means attraction for material qualities. Of course, whenever we hear the words, oh, attraction to wife, that means we should always understand the attraction to the opposite gender. It is always man for women and women for man. We heard in the Kapila Devahuti Sambad also, Kapila Dev said, just like the women is Maya for man, man is Maya for women. The opposite genders, when there is attraction, it drags one to the lowest stages of life. And one loses the chance to get elevated. That is cheated. That is cheating. One gets cheated by the illusory energy in the form of opposite gender. That is the problem of this materialistic attachment illusion. As Devahuti, she said, Vanchitoham, Vanchita Mayaya Dridham. Saham Bhagavata Nunam Vanchita Mayaya Dridham. I am cheated. Certainly, I am cheated by material illusion. I got association of a great saintly personality, but I just got material pleasures from him. Vimuktidam prapya na mumuksheya bandhanat. So that's how we are cheated. We get this human body, but we use it for sense gratification. Prabhupada writes, what type of cheating is happening here? Sometimes we see that when a person is on the platform of material goodness, he is attracted more or less by the cultivation of knowledge. Okay, this is still better, but knowledge is much, much lesser than devotional service. But at least this knowledge will help one come to devotional service. Maybe if he comes to know about the importance of devotional service, then he will take to it. The platform of knowledge is advantageous because it is the means by which one may come to the stage of devotional service. However, if one takes to devotional service directly, knowledge is revealed without separate endeavor. So by getting the knowledge of this world, one may also hear about the glories of devotional service, because if somebody is interested in getting the knowledge, okay, he will hear about, oh, this devotional service is also so very wonderful. Okay, let me try that also. So that's the end of this chapter, the description of the characteristics of Queen Puranjan. Now, the 26th chapter, King Puranjan goes to forest to hunt, and his queen becomes angry. So that is another very interesting chapter. Now, what in this chapter, what Narad Muni is going to do, he is going to create another analogy. So the previous chapter, Narad Muni created an analogy of a city to describe the body and the living entities. Now in this 26th chapter, Narad Muni will create the analogy of a chariot. Just 1 minute.
कोई बात नहीं, कोशिश करना 15 मिनट पड़ेगी.
हाँ. Okay, so we'll end this class today. We'll start with the next chapter in the next class. I have to go somewhere. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantra Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji Dangat.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.